to know a little bit more about him, and with the night ta'ala we'll get things started, inshallah ta'ala. We're good to go.
Yeah.
So, can you take pictures from the back?
Yeah, of course, bro.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala amma ba'd. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. So, Jazakallah khair Imam Hamid for allowing me to do my little introduction about myself. So, alhamdulillah, born and bred Finchleyan. Prior to this, alhamdulillah, my degrees in psychology and philosophy. So I've spent a massive chunk of my career looking and studying the brain and brain health and anything to do with neuroscience. And that's sort of been my kind of approach in dealing with psychological problems. So I used to be a counselor, helping people with drug and alcohol problems, a youth worker, especially in the Muslim community. So a lot of the time people overlook certain things, and we either blame the jinn for most of our problems, or if it's not the jinn's fault, then we're not worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we should. But I think it goes a bit deeper than that. So my presentation today, inshallah, is going to be on rooted and resilient. So it's advice to the young brothers and sisters, but at the same time it's some tidbits that the elders and us lot we can take as well, inshallah. So I'll break the talk up, and then I want to make it as interactive as possible. So I'll throw out questions, or if you've got some comments or whatever. If it's going to be something which is going to disrupt everything, try and leave that till the end. But if it's something that's going to contribute to the discussion, then yeah, bismillah, by all means, put your hand up, and then we can look into it. So the way we're going to look at this is going to be from a brain health kind of perspective, as opposed to just as I mentioned today earlier, of just having ayat of Quran and hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and then using that as our benchmark, because it's not always easy. We may be struggling with certain things in our lives, and for that particular reason we can't commit to certain things. So the first thing that we're going to look at is what is brain health. So what is the definition of brain health? And we're going to look at three specific parts of the brain, and how they contribute to the health. So the first part we're going to look at is going to be on our focus. Second part is our memory, and the third part is our decision making. So for the benefit of the brothers and sisters who have got teenagers, that portion of the brain, yani the decision making part, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it, the forelock, the front part of the brain, that is in development up until the age of 25. So up until 25, that's why teenagers, I say we, but back in the days, but teenagers tend to be a bit more rebellious, a bit more risk averse, a bit more, not very good with decisions, hence why their car insurance is so high, because this is still in development. After the age of 25, then things sort of settle down. And so if you find the teenagers giving a bit of lip or stick or whatever it is, then you know why. That their brain isn't fully functioning, and your brain as a mature adult is, so you can see things that they can't, and it's very difficult for them to comprehend what you're saying. So you may speak to some teenagers out there, and they're just giving you a blank stare because their brain can't comprehend what's going on. Same way as a baby, and from even prior to birth, the baby in the womb of the mother, the brain is being developed, and the neurons are starting. And the neurons in your brain, they start firing off, but there's no connections made. So between one neuron and the next, there's usually like an electrical signal sent, where messages get sent up and throughout the body. That's not happening yet for babies. So that's why when they're born, they don't have coordination, they can't see, they can't this and that. But then in those early years, between 0 and 7, this is where, they look at facial expressions, they look at this, they look at that. If they hurt themselves, they don't know if they've hurt themselves unless an adult gives a reaction, then they'll start bursting into tears. We'll look into that more deeply when the time comes, inshallah. So these are the three things that we're going to be looking at: the focus, the memory, and the decision making. So before we get into it, I want to ask the young brothers or the younger brothers, what is it that you think that the challenges young people are facing nowadays? So just put your hand up or shout out some things, whatever you feel. No one knows what challenges you're facing in today's day and age.
Confused.
Sorry?
Confused.
Confused. Social media. Money. Fame. Technology. General time wasting. Okay. Yeah. Peer pressure. Mashallah. Brilliant. Anything else? Drugs. Yeah, of course, drugs. Identity.
And also the
Brilliant.
information overload. It's too much for them to process. There's so much information.
So much information. Yeah. Brilliant. Alhamdulillah. Yes. Mental health. Yeah. Mashallah. All of these things are top. Top of the chain of issues. Especially what the young brother said. Peer pressure.
Wrong diet.
Diet. Yeah. We're going to come into diet as well. Especially when it comes to brain health. Especially the desi diet is absolutely terrible, and I can see, without pointing anyone out, a lot of pot bellies walking around, and that's because of not you, brother. A lot of pot bellies, and that's due to our diet. Skinny fat is what they call it, right? So yeah, peer pressure is a massive problem amongst the youth. Social media, information overload, mental health, all of these things, they have a root problem, and it comes from the company that we keep. So peer pressure is when I was younger, it was just your immediate circle, any of your friends and the people that you looked up to. But now, because of the introduction of social media, it's literally the entire world. You go online, you go to some TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it is, and you're seeing someone living their best life. You forget that there's filters there. You forget that they've taken that image about 100,000 times before getting the correct one, and that's their job. That's how they make money. They make money through these things. So they monetize the pictures, they monetize the videos. So they have to get that right. Imagine if you were working 8 hours a day and just trying to get one perfect picture or one perfect video. So that's literally what they're doing. So, and because of that, people are just duped into this false sense of reality, and statistics show that. So for example, 1 in 7 young people globally experience mental health disorders such as anxiety and depression. 1 in 7 of young people. This is according to the World Health Organization. So it's on a scale that we can't comprehend. And what we do, unfortunately, our sort of kind of resolving the problem is, okay, you need to read more Quran and do more adhkar and this and that. But all of that has its place. But if we address the root cause and see what the mental health problem is, what is the cause of the depression, what is the cause of anxiety, then we can try and work on that. And then when we do our adhkar, and then when we recite our Quran, and then when we pray our salah, then we're going to have a different experience with the salah. We're going to have a different experience with the Quran. We're going to have a different experience with the adhkar. But it's like if you've got a full pot and you try and add more things into it, it's going to overflow and nothing's going to remain. So as Brother Sulaiman mentioned, the information overload. There's a constant stream of things happening. So you're trying to cram all of this information in, and your brain is still in its developmental stage because of the age. So your brain is trying to take in all of this information, but it can't process it because there's too much going on. Your brain capacity isn't at that level of an adult. So then what happens is you feel that, okay, no one understands me, no one gets me, my parents don't get me, my siblings don't get me, only the people online get me. Because online, my safe world, I can go online, play games with someone on the other side of the planet, and I can be myself there. And now subhanAllah, they're introducing the meta space where you can go and be a virtual reality version of yourself, and you can have a virtual world and be this amazing human being that you weren't in the dunya, and you can be that in the virtual world. So it's just compounding this stress and anxiety and depression. Young people, statistically nowadays, they're the highest ones to commit suicide. Why? Because they feel that they're not enough, they're not adequate, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. If you went back just to maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, things were much slower. The internet wasn't as it was now. You had to, everyone will remember the dial-up connections. If you're on the phone and someone's on the internet, you'll get that screeching sound, and someone will shout, "Hey, get off the phone, I'm on the internet," or something like that. So there's a constant stream of issues happening. Then, as I mentioned, social media has been linked to a 30% increase in the feelings of loneliness amongst teens. And on top of all of this, you've got sleep deprivation. So young people, because we've got, younger people have got access to their phones at night time, unsupervised, whatever. They go into their room and that's it. We're assuming that they've gone to bed, but they're speaking to their mates and they're sleeping at 2-3 in the morning, and then they wake up for school all zombie-eyed, don't know what's going on, and then they have to try and function through their day. But we're going to look into sleep and the importance of sleep, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made sleep a blessing for us. We read it in the Quran, we recite it, but we don't know what sleep actually does to the body, subhanAllah. So let's look into the different parts of the brain. So we got the decision making part, the prefrontal cortex is called. So it's like the main hub, the center of the brain. Any decisions are made there, organizing your thoughts, making right choices, everything happens from that point in your brain. And obviously, as I mentioned, up until the age of 25, this is in constant kind of work in progress. And this is why sleep becomes very important, because if you information overload and your brain is in this developmental stage, it's like trying to drive a car without an engine. It's not going to work. But what the sleep does is that it drains your brain, it cleans it up. Because when you're in your resting state, sleeping, there's a mechanism that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that your brain goes through like a detox, a purification mode. So then when you wake up in the morning, if you've had adequate sleep, like they're saying 7 to 8 hours sleep, if you have that, then you'll wake up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. But obviously, that has to happen within the context of working around the salah. We can't have 7 hours sleep and say no, because my brain is going through a cleansing process, I'm going to miss Fajr or something like that. For example, in summer, Isha becomes late, Fajr becomes early, and then we've only got 2-3 hours in there. But that means you catch up on your sleep. The Prophet ﷺ, he would sleep, as we know the Sunnah, he would sleep after Isha. He would go straight home, he would go to sleep, and then he would wake up in the middle of the night or in the last third of the night, and he would pray. And then after he finished his Qiyamul Layl, then he would lay down again until the adhan for Fajr went. And then sleep in the day, in the night, he would pray, he would make qaylula in the daytime, when the sun was obviously at its peak and it was too hot to go outside. So the Prophet ﷺ got his adequate sleep. He didn't miss out on his sleep. Yes, there were times when he wasn't able to catch up on all of it. That was, few and far between. But the importance of sleep is there. It's in the Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in the Quran that He has made the night a covering for us and a type of rest. That this is where we're meant to be resting. We're not meant to be starting the night as we, unfortunately we do now. After Isha we'll go out and we'll do this and we'll do that. Or if we go into the Muslim lands, this is where the day actually starts. After Isha or in the night time when it's cooler, then you find all of the places open. That's not how it's meant to be. So we need to prioritize sleep in order to take the full function of this. And obviously if we're not getting the adequate sleep, that means our day is full of stress, and we feel a sense of depletion. So then what happens is that our cortisol levels go up. Cortisol is basically a stress mechanism to make you stop doing something silly. So if your cortisol level goes up, then and if it's a constant high, then you're in a constant state of stress and anxiety. That means your body, the chemicals in your body are imbalanced, and that's going to have a direct effect on your sleep. You're going to be insomniac rather. You're not going to be able to eat properly. You're always going to be on edge. And then what we do is that we have coffee in the day, because we're feeling so lethargic and tired. We have coffee which again increases our anxieties. So we're constantly on edge. And then what happens is that we'll get into an argument with someone at home, or road rage, or our children, and then we won't know what to blame. Like, he did this or she did that. But it comes down to this, something so simple as that we're not sleeping properly. If we slept properly and we slept nicely, then we would be different people when we wake up in the day. So another thing to increase our the development of our prefrontal cortex, or the decision making part of the brain, is to have or try and have as much khushu as we can, not just in our salah but things outside of the salah. So when we do things with a sense of ihsan. We're going to try our utmost. I'm going to put my focus into this. If I put my focus into this thing, Jazakallahu khair, bro. If I put my focus into this, then I will have a better experience with it. If I'm in something, if I'm doing this and I'm doing that at the same time, I'm multitasking, or I'm not giving something that's full attention, then naturally what's going to happen is that the work is going to be sloppy, the attention isn't going to be there, I'm not going to catch everything that was said, and then we'll wonder, how is this happening? What's going on? Something's happening in our life and I don't know how to deal with it. And then we'll look for supplementation, we'll look for all of these gadgets and gizmos online to see, like, how do we fix this? And it's very simple. If we look into our sleeping patterns and then we look into our diet, then we'll have a different experience with life, inshallah. Then we come to the amygdala, which is called the brain's alarm system. It's basically the fight and flight kind of response. As I mentioned, the cortisol. So it gives you that level of anxiety, but not the anxiety which is problematic. It gives you the anxiety which is cautious. Because if we didn't have fear, we would walk into the middle of the road when speeding cars are going down. But we have that sense of fear because we know that, okay, if I do that, I'm going to cause an accident and result in my death or something like that. So there's that system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put inside us which prevents us from causing harm. So again, if we've got too much cortisol in our bodies, the fear is on a constant high, we're constantly anxious about everything, then what we're going to find, as I mentioned already, is that our functioning in our day-to-day isn't going to be proper, and our concentration isn't going to be there. We're not going to be able to sit down and focus, even if we have, the appropriate foods and this and that, because our anxiety levels are too high. And again, it comes down to the things that we're doing in our day, and then things that we're doing in our night, more importantly, especially amongst the young brothers and sisters, that we spend our nights on our phones or online or something, and it's having a detrimental effect on the rest of our life. And then so at school as well, so the children at school, people going through their exams at the moment, they find that, okay, I can't focus, something's going on. They see parents, we've got the old, stay in your room and don't come out until it's food time. But in your room, you don't know why things aren't staying in your brain. You're trying to memorize something, it's not sticking. What's going on? And it's because of this. The memory thing, there's a blockage. So then how do we try and fix this? We go for sugary snacks. We're going to have a pack of crisps. We're going to eat some chocolate. We're going to have this, we're going to have that. Because snacking is not just comfort food, but it's also we feel as though that this is going to be helpful to our learning process. But it's not, it's the complete opposite. Your body is basically telling you something, but obviously because we're young, and as I mentioned, the decision-making process isn't all there. This is why, as parents, we need to have more of a say in the everyday things of our children. Give them the correct choices, guide them in the right ways, especially when it comes to health. Because again, from the Sunnah, we find the Prophet ﷺ, we know, everyone knows this hadith. Everyone knows this hadith of 1/3 food, 1/3 water, 1/3 air. Obviously, the practicalities of it is very different, right? We're not living by it. But then the hadith, it continues on, and the Prophet ﷺ said that it's enough for the son of Adam to keep it, to have a few morsels to keep his back straight. So technically, as long as we're able to function, it doesn't mean that we have to have a massive plate of food, and this is going to be our sustenance, because in Desi households, what we find is that the main meal is dinner, right? And dinner time is, unfortunately, we leave it very late. It's very rice heavy, very carb heavy, and then what happens is that we go to sleep on this full stomach. We don't exercise it off, we don't burn it off, and it becomes problematic. So we need to focus into these things. We need to really pay attention as to what are we putting into our bodies and what effect is it having on us. And now we come to the memory part of the brain, the learning part and the memory. This is the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is where memory is created. We can restore, we can have memories that we can retrieve. It's in that portion of the brain. If we're learning something new, if we want it to stick, there's methodologies for it to stick. And especially amongst Muslims, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, that because of our memorization and our revising of Quran or du'as or some text or this constant kind of learning that we do, statistically, alhamdulillah, the Muslims have the lowest level of Alzheimer's disease. And it's because your brain is in constant use. We're using our brain all the time. Whereas other people, they're not in this constant state of memorization and dhikr and adhkar and all of these kind of things. I'm not saying that all Muslims are protected from Alzheimer's, but I'm saying that it's a lesser chance of us getting it because our brains are constantly in use, and especially the hippocampus. We're using our memory portion of the brain constantly. So, another thing that strengthens the hippocampus, and that's why I mentioned, the pot-bellied brothers and sisters out there, I don't know about the sisters, but definitely the brothers, is our lack of physical activity. And it says almost like we're allergic to training or exercise. The most amount of exercise that we'll do is walk to the car, drive to the masjid, and then walk from the car to the masjid, and then and reverse that. And that's what we do. And then when it comes to exercise, we'll go up the stairs and down the stairs. But in terms of strenuous exercise, especially as you get older, and the muscles start deteriorating, weight training is essential to especially the older brothers and sisters as well. Weight training is going to keep your body healthy, is going to keep your mind sharp, is going to open up the blood vessels going to the brain, is going to keep the brain healthy as well. So weight training is optimal. If you can't go to the gym, fine, get some weights at home, do a home workout, but just keep in shape. That's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Look at the Sahabas, they were all healthy. You find Sahabas, they would go on jihad until they're in their 80s and 90s. How is that possible? It's because of the diet they were having and the exercise that they were in. Obviously the lifestyle was completely different there, right? It was very laborious, very on your feet, all of this kind of stuff. Our lifestyle is very sedentary. We just sit down, at the desk, in the office, in our cars, whatever we're doing, it's complete opposite. And then on top of that, we add problems to our health by eating loads of carbs, cakes, chocolates, rice, bread, and then we don't burn it off. So physical activity is going to keep the brain sharp and help you in your hifz. When you're older, obviously it's harder to memorize stuff, but this is going to help you. If you do weight training, it's going to help you in more ways than one, inshallah. So these are the main things of keeping the brain sharp. And one thing that we should do, and we should try and make it a practice, and I know the sisters are very good at this, is that they keep diaries and journals, and they say, oh dear diary, this happened today, or dear diary, that happened yesterday, or something like that. Brothers, we don't really do that. We don't want to keep logs of what happened today, But what happens when you journal things down and you put thoughts and emotions down on paper is that, number one, as I gave you that example of the pot which is full and you try and stuff more things inside, you can't get anything more. You're emptying out that vase. You're emptying out that pot onto paper. And you're putting all your thoughts, all your emotions down there. Now, I'm not saying that, okay, you're going to keep it somewhere and then lock it away in a cupboard in a safe, and then years later someone's going to find it and know all your secrets and whatever. No. If you're worried about that, get a piece of paper, write down whatever your feelings and emotions are, and then throw away the paper. At least what you've done is that you've dumped all of the nonsense from your head onto paper, and now your brain is free for a new day, inshallah. So journaling and reflecting is very, very important to brain health. And again, we look at the statement of Umar radiallahu anh, where he said, take account of yourself before account is taken on you. So obviously in those days they weren't really writing and journaling things down, but they were reflecting on their day. What happened today, from the time of the morning until the evening? How did I draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Did I upset anyone? Did I do this? Did I do that? We can do the exact same thing. Any things that were left from the day, we can carry over to the next day. One of the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that one thing that we should prioritize is the regrets of the day. So let's say, for example, today was Yawmul Jum'ah and we didn't recite Surah Kahf. Right? There's one opinion that says that Surah Kahf isn't exclusive for just Friday, but it can be recited on any day of the week. So this is just an example. Another regret we may have, we didn't make enough salawat on the Prophet ﷺ on Jummah. So now we prioritize that tomorrow. Say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to give 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to salawat to the Prophet ﷺ. So when you prioritize your regrets, then when you reflect on the end of the day, say like, okay, this is what I've carrying over from the next day. Maybe today I've got 5 regrets, tomorrow I'll have 3, the day after I have 2, the day after I have 1. Now you're living in a state of, okay, I'm not going to have any regrets today. I'm not going to have any things which I'm going to be regretful for tomorrow. I'm just going to be in this constant state. So reflection and journaling is key. So as I mentioned, all of this stems from our sleeping habits. There was one of the CEOs of a company. He said that 2 things that you should look into or not be stingy in. Number 1 is a pair of shoes, and number 2 is a bed, because you're going to spend half your time in each of them. So half the day you're going to be in your bed, and half the other time you're going to be in your shoes. So don't be stingy on that. Now obviously that's within reason, right? We don't go for any luxury, huh? Michael Jordan? Yeah, no, you can, why not? Jordans are nice. Brother, if it's going to make you feel comfortable, this is my point. So the alternative for non-expensive ones is bare feet, right? So if we invest in a good pair of shoes, it makes us feel comfortable. Whatever tickles your fancy, brother. Skechers rather. Whatever you fancy, don't be stingy in that. And in a bed as well. But the caveat of the bed is that you need to ensure that this is we're not going to be those who use the bed as an excuse for missing Fajr. But the bed, even if you get 4 hours of good sleep, of uninterrupted sleep, in a decent bed, it will do wonders for you, inshallah. So this is what we need to focus on, inshallah. So prioritizing sleep, making sleep an important part of the day, because if we sleep well, we can implement the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the blessing for my ummah is in the morning. Now a lot of us will come for Fajr. Now obviously Fajr is a bit later, so if we're going back to bed after Fajr, it's a bit scandalous. But sorry? That's because you've been sleeping late, brother. No chance. So yeah, if you're going to sleep after Fajr, and let's say you leave the masjid at 7 o'clock and you're sleeping till 10, then there's issues, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said there's barakah in the morning, and you will find that if you go and do your shopping in the morning, no one is in the shops, because everyone is doing the opposite of this hadith. Everyone is doing a lie-in. I deserve a lie-in, I deserve this, I deserve that, whatever. Now obviously I'm not saying that you have to be regimental and militant and deprive yourself of sleep because I need to implement the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, if you need to sleep, you need to sleep. If you haven't caught enough sleep in the night, then obviously you need to catch it in the day, because the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't just, we're not isolated in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Contrary to what the world wants us to be, very nafsi, very with ourselves, very isolated, cut off from the family, cut off from extended family, etc., etc. So when you're by yourself, the lone sheep is devoured by the wolf. But this religion is a social religion. We are encouraged to meet one another, break bread with one another, do all of these things together as a community. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said when he came to Medina. When he came to Medina as a leader, he said, spread the salam, invite people to food, pray and pray in the night when the rest of the people are sleeping, and enter into Jannah in salam by doing these things. So spread the salam. Doesn't mean you give salam to just the people that we know or I've known him and I'm going to give salam. Or if they're in a group of people, I'm going to give this person a hug, and then everyone else I'm just going to give the, the old salute. But be generous with the salam. Get to know one another. This is what this community is about. This ummah is about socializing, and socializing has a massive dopamine effect on the brain, a massive spike. That we meet someone, that we may share the same kind of interests as them, or they're from our village back home, or something like that, and you just feel good. And the Prophet ﷺ, countless times he's mentioned, about meeting people, that the souls are like soldiers. They meet one another, and they sometimes gel with one another, and sometimes don't. And that will happen because we're insan. But we won't know that until we make the effort. We won't know that until we give salam to someone that, oh, I've never seen you in the masjid before. Oh, have you just moved to the area? Etc. etc. Make them feel welcome, and they'll remember that. So socializing is going to have a massive effect on the spike in dopamine. Sleeping properly, adequately, is going to have a massive spike in our dopamine and how we feel in the day, in serotonin, all of these happy kind of hormones, is going to lower our kind of anxiety and cortisol levels. And eating good. So now we come to the food part, because this is what we love, right? So now, food, as I mentioned, we have to be sensible in our food. We can't be, destroying our bodies with carbs, especially in the Desi community, Asian community. We are prone to diabetes, we are prone to high blood pressure, we're prone to all of these kind of problematic things, and it comes from the bad kind of carbs. When I say bad carbs, I mean like white rice, white bread, cakes, all of these good things, that's what we're prone to. Yes, exactly, alhamdulillah, indeed. But we need to be mindful of what we eat, and the advice is that we eat a fistful of food, as much as your fist is, not whatever you can fit in your hand and you eat that, but your portion size. So that much rice, that much meat, that much vegetables, whatever. Your plate should be small. It doesn't need to be a humongous plate, and then we devour that and we go for seconds and thirds and whatever. Again, from the sunnah, we see the Prophet ﷺ, he used to eat in a big kind of plate with everyone around, and he would eat from his side. He wouldn't dive over the other side and say, give me that piece of the meat, give me that, give me this. He would eat from his portion. And he would encourage people, if they were not as well off as other people, he would give them the boost. So there's one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he went to someone's house and all the man had was vinegar and bread. And the Prophet ﷺ praised him. He said, vinegar is the best food. And he went to someone else's house, and mashallah, that person was a bit more wealthy, and again he was served vinegar and bread. And the Prophet ﷺ said, vinegar is the worst of food. And it wasn't to say that, how is this contradiction, and why is he saying worst here and best there? It was to encourage this man who's got money and wealth to feed properly and eat good, and is to boost up the other man who couldn't afford it, that look, alhamdulillah, whatever you have is awesome. So again, this was to boost up the people. And the Prophet ﷺ, this was his sunnah. So we need to behave like that as well, especially when it comes to food. Don't be greedy, don't be gluttonous, don't be this, don't be that, but just be controlled in our portions. And think about our brain health. If we just put that as our primary objective, that I'm going to focus on my brain. Is this food going to be good for my brain? Now, how do I know if this food is good for the brain or not? Is this food going to burn off easily or not? Arnold Schwarzenegger, as we know, he's the Terminator and the bodybuilder and all of this and that. He said one thing: if it jiggles, it's fat. Yeah. So if your body jiggles after you've eaten certain food, then know that you've eaten something which is not good for it, and you have to burn it off double hard. So our portion size, our main focus should be on the proteins and the good fats. The proteins, yani your lean meats, your fish, your eggs, and your fats you can get from oil. Coconut oil is good, olive oil is good. Don't use sorry? Corn oil. Corn oil, yeah. Don't use these things. Don't use corn oil or vegetable oil or sunflower oil and all of the good oil. You cut that out. But the oil that is used for like frying pakore and samosa and the things that we love in Ramadan, this needs to be out of our diets. As hard as that is to accept, but if we put our brain health as our primary objective, then it's going to be an easy thing to cut off. But if we don't, and we want to just be following our nafs and our desires, then we'll find that there is so many issues that we find in our life. Oh, my knees are hurting, my back is hurting, my shoulder is hurting, my this is hurting. Where is that coming from? It's because of what we're eating. We try and find it's because I haven't done this, I haven't done that. No, it's because you're eating something which is not agreeing with your body. So going back to some of the things that we need to focus on in foods. So from the sunnah, we have dates. 100% dates. They're rich in antioxidants and it protects your brain cells. Dates protect your brain cells from deteriorating, from this and that. As we know, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, eat 7 ajwa dates in the morning, it will be protected from magic. If we don't have ajwa, then 7 dates. We don't just restrict it to Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever's house is deprived of dates, he has no food. Dates is such an important, should be such an important part of our dietary plans or requirements, that instead of eating chocolates or this and that, we just have our sugar fix in dates, inshallah. Honey, natural energy and anti-inflammatory properties. So the reason why we have disease in our bodies is because there's inflammation in the body that happens, and the brain can become inflamed as well through certain foods. So anti-inflammatory properties is something that we need to have. So for example, anti-inflammatory is like you've got a swelling on your leg or something and you put an ice pack to bring the inflammation down. So this can happen to your organs as well. So when the organ is inflamed, it's not functioning properly. And if it's not functioning properly, then it's a route for other diseases to sprout from that. And obviously we know cancer is on the rise. So we need to protect ourselves from this by eating clean and eating good foods, inshallah. Olive oil and olives. So improved brain communication between the cells, between the nucleus and the other nucleus. Olive oil really helps in that. So you can drizzle it on your salad. You can, if you want to go really hardcore, you can sip it in a little cup, and that will be really good for your body. Obviously, this has to be good quality olive oil. Black seed, again, Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that in black seed, that there is a cure for everything except death. So this is, again, we need to put this as part of our dietary plans. You can have it in, you oil, you can mix it in hot water, drink it, you can get the actual seed, chew it, you can put it in your salads, you can put it in your meals, eat it however you want to have it. Have a small portion of black seed every day. Inshallah, it will do wonders for your body. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Walnuts, again, it looks like the brain, right? So it's good for your brain and good for the things that for the function of the brain as well. So try and have a handful of walnuts on a daily basis as well, inshallah. Leafy greens is like a shield for the brain. So like kale, spinach, they're high in vitamin K, and it supports brain cell repair and cognitive decline. Leafy greens. So spinach from the shop. So Popeye wasn't lying, man. He was telling the truth, that there is benefit in spinach. So have that as much as we can. So now we come to this understanding of different stages of development. I mentioned it from in the beginning that our brain, especially amongst teenagers, it goes through this cycle of changes. Teenagers are you just want to punch them in the face and whatever, but they're going through this development phase. So 0 to 7, we know the Prophet ﷺ, he said that this is in stages. So 0 to 7, this is a time where children are more playful, their brain is more active. All of the new kind of connections are being made in the brain. More so than that will happen after the age of 25. After the age of 25, consider it cut off. But this is where the are being made. So there's like affiliations made. So for example, we have it even now. Like there might be a certain smell that we come across, but that smell triggers something in our brain, and it takes us back to a certain point in our life that something happened. So in that moment in time, we were transported mentally to something specific because of a smell. So that's happened because that experience was connected from one neuron to the next, and that's been stored into your hippocampus, into your memory bank. So when we come across children between the ages of 0 to 7, this is the ideal time for tarbiyah, the prime time when they see the parents praying salah, when they see them reciting Quran. This is going to be the time where they see if there's conflict in the house, they're going to see that and they're going to store that in their bodies. They're going to have a negative experience. I went to a class once, and there was a non-Muslim lady. She was saying that how she had, every time as a relationships get serious, she cuts it off. If it's heading towards marriage and all of that, she cuts it off before anything can progress. So the speaker, she said, why? What goes on? She said that I don't trust men. Why don't you trust men? Oh, because when I was 4 years old, this is a grown woman, 35, 36 at the time. When she was 4 years old, her father took her to nursery and left her there, which is completely normal thing to do. Completely normal thing to do. But her experience was her father told her that he's never going to leave her. I'm always going to be with you, telling her all of these things. And he took her to nursery and he left her there, so she lost trust in men from the age of 4. Now obviously the father is not to blame for that. He didn't know that this was going to be the result. But my point is that something so tiny can have a massive impact on children. And because we isolate it to Quran, dhikr, salah, this, that, we don't look into the bigger picture. We don't look into the negative things that are happening in people's lives. So this is why we need to focus on the tarbiyah of our children in the best of ways. If there's a conflict in the house, don't argue in front of the kids. If there's some issue happening, make sure it's not happening in front of the children. The focus for kids should be playing and soft skills, building up on things that are going to boost their confidence, encouragement, these kind of things up until the age of 7. Then you've got the adolescent, the nightmare years, from 8 till 15, 16, where the brain is going through puberty. It goes through this horrible phase where everyone went through, and parents, we forget that we were teenagers once as well. So then we think that what's going on with this person, what's happening, but we don't give them any slack and tell them that this is, we shouldn't be doing these kind of things. We just come down hard and heavy. But this is a time of friendship, where we try and connect with them. What's going on? Become a friend with our teenagers. don't try and always dictate to them, but learn from them. Do something that they initiate. Give them that sort of responsibility. Even though their brain might not be fully developed, it doesn't mean you treat them as a silly person, but you give them that responsibility, that you're going to be responsible for this now. You're going to get this task. You're going to be doing this. This is why they have part-time jobs and this and this and that for teenagers. So they have this sense of responsibility and whatever. Then we come to the age of 25. So going back to the teenage years, this is where brain plasticity is at its peak. So again, they're going to learn kind of skills for life at this age. And connections which were made between the ages of 0 to 7, if those aren't maintained, they're going to be cut off. So let's say, for example, a child was given chocolates while they were young for some crazy reason. You've given them sweets and chocolates while they're young, and by the age of 8 or 9 they really love chocolates, and then all of a sudden there's a hard kind of cut-off. There's a hard cut-off from these chocolates, and they're not exposed to chocolates or having chocolates for another 4 or 5 years. Now what's happened in the brain is that connection to chocolate has been severed. So this teenager, this is like some super teenager I'm talking about, who doesn't like chocolates and sweets. This teenager is not going to have any affiliation to chocolate. You offer them chocolate, no, I'm alright. Oh, if it's chocolate, no, I'm okay. And it's like, what's going on? How did that happen? And it's because of that severance has happened in the brain. So again, this is the time. Going back to, obviously, we've digressed from the topic of the thing, but it'll all come back to it, inshallah, rooted and resilient. That if we are rooted in our deen at this age, and we focus on deen at this age, especially at this adolescent time, and we build those connections and we fortify them and we make them secure, then this is going to carry on up until 25 and beyond. But if we neglect this time and we say that no, you know what, this guy is lost, or he's not doing this, we have to make an effort. Because if we don't, then there are hundreds and thousands of people outside who are ready to make that effort on our kids. Be it online, be it at school, be it at work, whatever it is, they're ready and waiting. And it's all because we weren't patient with our kids in the first place in order to do this. So now we come to the ages of 25 to 40. So there's some hope for the rest of us, inshallah. So as I mentioned, by the mid-20s, prefrontal pretty much done. Your decision making is there. Whatever you know right from wrong, you'll be able to advise younger people. Okay, this is dangerous, this is good, this is that, is done. This is complete. And whatever the neural connections that were continuously done in the adolescent time, the teenage years, that's going to continue on, inshallah. And then early adulthood is when you solidify your habits. This is where habits become a thing now. In the teenage years, there's still work in progress. We do some things, we don't do some things. Habits are pretty much set in stone from the age of 25 upwards, and you really need to work hard to break a habit after that. It's not as simple as it was if you were a teenager, or even if you were younger than that. So from the age of 25 upwards, anyone who's above the age of 25, know that anything that you try and etch in your brain now is going to be like trying to etch onto soap. Soap in running water. Imagine that. It's very difficult for it to stick. Whereas if you're in teenage years, whatever you're going to stick to is going to be like etched in stone, inshallah. It's going to be there, fortified, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And then we come to the ages of 40 and above. Middle ages. Yani when Nabuwa came to the Prophet ﷺ. So there is hope for everyone, inshallah. That it wasn't a, this is just a talk for the young brothers and sisters. It's going to be for the brothers and sisters who are young at heart as well. So for the ages of 40 and above, this is where the brain begins to age. But wisdom and life experiences is what carries us through. So this is where we can pass on this knowledge to the younger folk and tell them that, look, in my day I used to do this, in my day it was like that, blah blah blah. But it's going to be more of a, like, now I'm set. A lot of people find themselves, quote unquote, after the age of 40. Why? Because now all of the, the brain development, the craziness is gone, and now it's focus time. The things that we missed out on in life, this is where people find a bit more time in their day to focus on. So it's not all lost. If Nabuwa came to the majority of prophets after the age of 40, then that means there is a wisdom in there. There's a hikmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this happens after 40. What we tend to do is after the age of 40, people just kick back and relax and say, khalas, my salah is going to be done. I'm content with Qul Huwallahu Ahad in all of my rakats, and I'm not going to improve on this, I'm not going to do that, I'm just, set. But this isn't what the Prophet ﷺ did. If anything, this is where Quran was revealed to him. This is where his brain needed to be more stimulated. He had to convey the message. He had to act more. He had to do more than what he was ever doing between the ages of from 0 to 40. So what it means to say is that whatever we do in our younger time is going to carry on into our later ages. If we are rooted in our deen from young, and if we make that our focus and our priority, especially for the kids, because on that day when there's going to be no shade except the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the one category of people is going to be the young man who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their youth. Now, youth Islamically stops at 40. Anything up until 40 is considered youth. So there's still time for a lot of us. Anything after 40, okay, we may not fall into the youth category, but we fall into the category of, Nabuwa category, yes, of course. The conveying category, the wisdom category, the hikmah category, the passing on the torch to the others. This is where, the 40 plus get to shine. It's not sufficient that we should be focusing on ourselves at that point, because the Prophet ﷺ never did that. He didn't stop his ibadah for himself. He wasn't in the cave of Hira by himself and said, khalas, I've got this revelation and that's it. He was told to convey. He was told to invite. He was told to stand up and pray. He was told to do this. He was told to do that. So this is the age that we're meant to start doing even more, going even harder, going even faster, because now time is not on our side. So between the ages of 0 and 40, should be the focus of on our children. That we're going to give them everything. We're going to give them everything that they need to survive and be resilient in this dunya. Be from a dini perspective and a dunya perspective. We're going to try and give them the best education. We're going to try and give them the best upbringing, and we're going to make brain focus, the brain health, the focus of all of this. Because if we focus on the brain and we prioritize that as our main thing for the children, then you will find that kids are going to be excelling in everything in their lives. They're going to be the best when it comes to the academic studies. They're going to be the best when it comes to their dini studies. They're going to be the best when it comes to their sports and activities. They're going to be in a competitive state, because this is what our focus should be on. It shouldn't be the sedentary kind of thing of sit down and read your sabak and sit down and do your thing and sit. Now kids don't want to do that. Kids, they've just got, like kujli, they've got ants. They just want to do things. So we need to encourage that. And if we focus on this and let children be children, then they're going to be rooted in their deen. They're going to be resilient in their deen. That when someone comes to them and tries to shake them with, all of this kind of nonsense that we're seeing in outside sphere, they'll know that no, hold on, my deen doesn't allow me to do this, because their brain is going to be sharp. Focus on brain activities, brain stimulation stuff. We've neglected all of this. A lot of focus now is going on to brain. We see it in football, concussion, rugby, in American football. I don't want to call it football, but that's what they call it. Because they're looking into brain health. Because they know that this is where the everything stems from there. It's such a small little thing in comparison to the entire body. But it literally is the control center of everything. And if we neglect that, and we don't give it its right, then you will find that we lose our mind. Oh, what's going on? What did I do today? How did I do that? Did that happen today or was that yesterday? Confusion. And then again, we'll blame it on something else. So if we focus on these things, I know I've taken way over time of what was allocated to me. No one gave me a signal. So it was your guys. No, Barakallah Feek. This was the discussion at point. I think we need to, as I mentioned, I'll finish on this point. We focus on these things. In our adolescence time, we begin to take ownership of our beliefs. From the ages of 7 to 14. This is where we want to be independent from our parents, and our friends become the people that we relate to and connect with. But if we make sure that our children are surrounded by good people who are strong in their deen, they're going to identify as Muslims and identify in this as believers, inshallah. They'll be able to navigate their emotions and challenges to deepen our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In early adulthood, post 14. Post 14 is considered early adulthood. Right? 18 is, where the law considers you an adult. But after your brain is slightly more mature than of a 14-year-old, you can see it amongst the kids now, right? This is where we cement the habits and define who we are. So this is where the roots come into real play, after the age of 14. And then in our middle ages and beyond, this is where we reflect, refine, and pass on the wisdom that we've learned. So now I'll open the floor to any discussion. I know it's going to take way over time. Jazakallah khair for your patience. If there's any points that you wanted to mention, Bismillah.
Yeah, just the water intake and how important it is. I have not heard anything about conversation on water.
Jazakallah khair, sorry. Yes. Wood. Yeah. 70% of the body is water. Jazakallah khair. So especially when it comes to brain function, water is imperative. If we feel dehydrated and if we feel that our mouth is dry, then know that it's too late. When I say it's too late, I don't mean that khalas, you can't drink water, it's not going to benefit you. Meaning that your body has gone past that dehydration point. It's sending you crazy signals to say that this is danger point. You need to give me water now. And then what you'll find is that when you've got good water in your body, not just water, tap water or something like that, but if we can get like water with electrolytes, put a bit of salt in there. Just when you go to the hospital, Allah protect everyone, but when we go and visit people in the hospital, they give them a saline solution. They don't just give them, Evian or Highland Springs. They give them this water which has got substance inside it, so it boosts them up. The same way we should do when we wake up in the morning after our fasting at night, our sleep. When we wake up in the morning, you should have at least a glass of water with lemon juice squeezed into it, because that's going to detox, that's going to rejuvenate your body and get it back to on point, because it's gone through a resting phase at night time. You want to give it this little jump start, and then you'll find when you come for Fajr in the morning, your brain is already sharp. You're not just groggy and, oh, what's he reciting? And before you know it, he's giving salam, and you're like, what's happened? So start the day, glass of water with lemon juice squeezed into it, and we should be trying to consume at least 2 liters a day, at least 2 liters of water a day to keep your body in check. A sign that you're not having enough water is that your tongue will have like ridges on the side. So it's like got the teeth imprint on your tongue. It means that you're dehydrated. So focus on that. Don't go to the caffeine, don't go to the coffees. Focus on the water intake. Jazakallah khair.
You mentioned earlier about somebody have chemical imbalance, or what was that kind of cause or something?
What is the?
When you mentioned about chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
Like what's the best way for if somebody has that to reduce the impact or to reverse that?
Okay, so Jazakallah khair. So the question was about chemical imbalances in the body. So it means that the cortisol level is high. So the cortisol is basically like your fight and flight. The fight or flight. So the amygdala, which I mentioned, where it gives you that kind of alarm system. So if that's on peak all the time, if that's on a high alert all the time, that means your cortisol levels are too high. So your body is reacting in a negative way. So in order to bring that down, the ideal thing is just to take a minute and just take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and then let it out your mouth. We don't breathe properly. That's the thing as well.
Like 3 count in and 4 count out.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not breathing correctly. So we breathe in through our nose, hold it for 4 seconds, and then out of your mouth. And don't do that into a paper bag. You know what you see in the movies? Don't do that, because you're just blowing carbon dioxide into the bag and then inhaling it back in and killing yourself. So ideal is go to look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's vast earth, somewhere nice and green, take it all in and breathe it all out. One of the ulama, subhanAllah, he said, do you know why the air is fresh in the morning and it feels so nice? And there was Ya Shaykh, why? And he said, because the munafiqeen haven't woken up yet. Obviously that was a joke. So sorry? Yeah, so that's going to be obviously the freshest air. Obviously as fresh as you're going to get in Finchley, right? With all the smog and pollution and nastiness. You go out into the sticks and take it all in, the nice smells over there, breathe it in, hold it for a few seconds, breathe it out. It's going to calm your cortisol levels. Don't do things which are going to cause you anxiety. Don't go to places which are going to be triggering. For some reason, I don't know why people watch horror movies. It makes no sense to me. And one of the shaykh, he said that there are 2 types of people in this world. There are people who admit to watching movies and the people who don't. So pick which side you're on. So don't go to think or do things which are going to trigger your cortisol levels. Go for things which are going to be calming, relaxing. That's what the Prophet ﷺ would do. He would always look for the easy path, the relaxed path, not the hardship path, things which is not going to raise the levels but it's going to down. Wallahu a'lam. Jazakallahu khair.
One question, especially the sleep mechanism, obviously, it started after the sunset, So
Yeah.
modern days we're awake till 4 o'clock, we haven't, awake till 10 o'clock, we have not finished the job, things are like that. But it is actually the pineal gland that starts secreting melatonin, that's after sunset,
Uh-huh.
And also before 1 hour, if you get into sleep at 10 o'clock, you better start at 9 o'clock, you're telling your brain to sleep. First thing you dim the light, that constant
Maybe you
bright
go
light.
there, you come here, let me take your place.
Yeah, you want to switch?
So these are
That's the
mechanisms
idea.
actually important to start with.
Yeah.
Age.
No, brilliant.
Literally, by the time brush your teeth, you change your pajamas, make the bed, you know.
Start winding down for the night. Yeah.
You've got to use the phone as well before you sleep.
Yeah, so this is all brilliant, you know, mashallah. So for the benefit of
Or
the
if you can't
people
sleep,
online.
if you're going to buy a mattress, the people will advise you to breathe in, hold the breath, count 7, 8, 9, 10, then breathe out. And then it falls you like, oh, practice.
There we go. That's how we sleep at night. Yeah, mashallah. So for the benefit of everyone online, this was some sleeping tactics that we can implement. Start to unwind. So the brother he mentioned, your brain starts secreting the melatonin from the pineal gland to sleep from sunset. So this is why you find yourself a bit more groggier in the evening time. And the fun fact, subhanAllah, they did a study of decision making, and they basically conducted this study on people in prison who were going for parole, and they found that the people who were up for parole and they had their hearing in the morning, they were more likely to get bail or parole or whatever it's called. And the people who went for their afternoon hearing, they were less likely to get parole. And the reason for that is, again, your brain is more active in the morning. Your brain goes into shutdown mode as soon as you start going towards the evening time. And it's a natural mechanism Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And if we try and fight that mechanism and stay awake at night, that's why, you know, a few days into that you'll be, you know, insomniac. And if we push sleep to the brink, yani we'll be hallucinating, seeing things that aren't really there. There was a program which they basically had to scrap. It used to be on Channel 4. It took the concept of Big Brother, you know, where they were just watching people 24 hours a day. This was called Shattered. And what it was is that people weren't allowed to sleep. They weren't allowed to sleep. They had X amount of people in a house, and there was so much money up for grabs. And if someone slept for an hour, the most they could sleep was for an hour. But if someone was dozing off for a minute or so, then the money would decrease from the big pot. And then people were voted off, and people couldn't handle it, and they left until it was the last 3 people. And what they did, and this was the worst kind of punishment that they could have done, is for the winner, in order to win the money prize, they basically got the last 3 contestants, they put them in a room, they gave them the most comfortable beds, they switched off the light, they put on soundproof equipment, and they said, stay awake. They said, stay awake. And the last person to sleep is the one who wins. And the problem is, because you've got the soundproof equipment on, you can't hear the other person snoring. So you don't know if they're asleep or not. So they're fighting their hardest to stay awake. And then they had so many health issues after that because of sleep. So yeah, some of the tips and tricks of going to bed, start unwinding 1 hour before your bedtime. Don't go on your phone. If you've got your phone out, set it to removing your blue light. So on your iPhone there's a setting you can completely take away the blue light to make it like this. It's softer on the eyes. I can't remember how I did that. I'll send it to Imam Hamid or something, and then he can post it up. But yeah, definitely don't use your phone in your bed with your blue light on. Ideally you shouldn't have the phone in your bed at all, because that's the time for sleeping. If you need something to do before you sleep, then obviously we've got the adhkar, the sleeping adhkar is going to be the best, or read a book or something like that, and then fall asleep, inshallah. That's going to be the best for you, bismillah.
I wanted to ask, for people who work night shifts, because they have to change sleeping patterns, does
Yeah.
over time have a detrimental effect?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like long term, like years?
Yeah, it will. I obviously, I can't say years, but because it's in that brain development time. So if it's going in that phase of, okay, I'm a teenager but I'm going to work night shift, or I'm, you know, approaching 25, that's when your brain is literally still forming. So anything that you do which is contrary to that in its development to be the optimum is going to have a detrimental effect. So ideally you shouldn't be working night shift. If it's unavoidable, then do it as an absolute, like maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week or something like that.
Because in Japan, their bedroom is only bed and some glass of water, nothing there.
Yeah, simplicity, man.
Yeah.
This deen was spread on simplicity and sacrifice. If we focus on these two things, we'll be successful, inshallah. Alright, Jazakallah khair. I think we'll call it a night. Again, apologies for, you know, such a long presentation. I hope, you know, it was beneficial. If there was any questions online, I don't have access to that, and Imam Hamid isn't here, so we'll have to address them at another time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.